So a top California official is pushing for tighter gun laws in that state. Lieutenant Governor Gavin Newsom wants his initiative on the ballot next year. The proposal calls for these things: instant background checks for anyone who goes into a store to buy ammunition. Gun owners will also be required to turn in large capacity magazines, that's anything over 10 rounds, and they must report stolen weapons immediately. Newsom saying that this message, he believes, is one that should be heard by the NRA.
You can intimidate politicians. We've seen that. Hell, you've been effective. But you can't intimidate the public. That's why we're bringing this directly to the public.
So let's see what Leslie Marshall thinks about this. Syndicated radio talk show host, blogger for the Huffington Post, and a Fox News contributor. And David Webb is host of the David Webb Show on Sirius XM's Patriot Channel, columnist for The Hill, and a Fox News contributor. Welcome
Good morning, Martha.
to you both. Good morning, to you. Leslie, let me give you take the first crack at this. Good idea?
Yes, I think it is a good idea. I mean, first of all, I don't think it's too much to ask, hey, if your weapon's stolen, report it. Secondly, this is a state issue, and I would think David likes more power to the states. And speaking of the state, we in California, overwhelmingly, a majority here do support stronger and stricter gun control measures. One of the issues in the past that people have said with background checks on weapons is that criminals aren't going to go to a gun shop or maybe even a gun show, where many of us obviously still want background checks. But what about that ammunition? What about that bullet? If you have nothing to hide, why not support this? If one life is saved, isn't it worth it? I and others in California do believe that.
David?
I'm about to cry. I don't know what to do after that persuasive argument on emotion. You know, let's apply liberal logic here for a moment. In New York City, a 16-ounce big gulp is bad for you, but in California, if they get it, and in Washington, Oregon, and Colorado, pot is good for you. That's the kind of logic you get from these anti-Second Amendment types. They did it in Seattle, by the way, in violation of state law, by passing a $25 tax on weapons and a 5-cent tax on bullets. This will have no effect on the criminals, but they want to criminalize law-abiding citizens. First of all, to Leslie's point, law-abiding citizens have their weapons stolen. They report it to the police. Why? Because they want it to be either found, taken off the street, and not end up in the hand of a bad guy, which means they might get into more legal issues if it's used in a crime. You've got Hillary Clinton, who wants an Australian in Keene, New Hampshire, this past weekend. She says she wants a national Australian-type gun buyback program. And the liberal logic is if you remove the guns from the population, everything will be okay. Let me refer you to the knife intifada going on right now in Israel. Bad people, terrorists or criminals, will use whatever is available to commit their crimes.
Let's listen to Hillary Clinton on this last week. Here she is.
The NRA tries to keep gun owners, the ones who are members, really upset all the time so they can keep collecting their money, because they tell them that they're the only thing that's going to stop the black helicopters from landing on the front yard and people's guns being seized. I mean, that's basically the argument they make.
Leslie? I mean, what about the argument that, you know, we just heard from a member of the NRA before we went to the break, that, you know, what stops, because, you know, what we're really talking about here at the basis of all of this is these horrific shootings and the loss of young lives that we've seen at campuses across this country. That's what has sparked all of this. So we need to figure out a way to try to get a handle on that and to make, you know, and to save, as you said, you know, even one life with any good move that we can possibly make. But the question is, will this do any good? We've seen states with a lot of gun control, like Illinois, Chicago, for example, have some of the most horrific homicide numbers that we have in this country.
Oh, no question. And I think that's why going toward the ammunition and not just the weapon is in, like you said, the spirit of being preventative. To David's point that we liberals feel that the less guns we have, the less violence there will be. Not exactly, but I think we could turn that argument around. We have more Americans owning guns than ever before. We have more school shootings, more massacres with a gun being used, and people, men, women, children, dying at the hands of that than ever before. So here in California,
actually, that's
again,
reduced according to the statistics.
David, just a preventative measure.
Final thought, David. We got to go.
Final thought on this is the Second Amendment's going nowhere, and I want them to put it on the ballot in California. Let Californians have their say and reap what they sow. But the Second Amendment, sorry, Leslie, Hillary, the Crown Princess, and others, it's going nowhere.
All right. Well, it is being put to the people's vote in the state of California, and we'll see what happens. Thank you very much. Thanks, Leslie. Thanks.